the jump scare. You hate it, I hate it, all of you hate it. It is one of the worst tactics that they use in horror films nowadays. But now film executives think, hey, we'll use this in all of our films because it's a great idea. Well, if you do a jump scare right, it is. So let's start with part 1. Jump scares have literally existed ever since the first horror film, and that would be The Haunted Castle from 1896. And then 30 years later, the most famous early jump scare from Phantom of the Opera, the unmasking scene was the second jump scare ever made, and the most famous early jump scare there is. And then, 20 years later, the first ever fake-out jump scare came from cat people with this scene.
Climb on, sister. Are you riding with me or ain't you?
And then 16 years later came the first ever modern jump scare from House on Haunted Hill. And then literally a year later, Psycho came out and popularized the new modern jump scare with this very, very famous scene. Now, some of you may be asking, what is the modern jump scare? Well, the modern jump scare is when a movie has something pop out at you and a very, very, very loud noise like this pops up. So, that is the modern jump scare. They're never fun, but that's what they are. That's what they are like now, and that's what they're going to be like for a while. So that is the modern jump scare. Now let's get on to the next part of the jump scare history. And then 7 years later came the first ever usage of the fake out death jump scare, where the character supposedly thinks they killed the bad guy in the film, and then the bad guy gets up and does one final jump scare. That was started in a film called Wait Until Dark from 1967.
Window.
And then after a few years of disappearing, for 7 years there wasn't really any jump scares, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas came out, and they were both very low budget films, and they brought back the jump scare. And they were also the first version of the slasher genre besides Psycho.
Claude? Is that you, Puss? Kitty? Who is that? Who is it? Claude? Who is that? Who is it?
Hey, Pam! Hello!
And then around 4 years later came this very low budget film directed by John Carpenter. You probably don't know it. Halloween, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. This movie revolutionized the horror genre. It brought slasher genre to the mainstream, and it brought famous actor Jamie Lee Curtis into her first role. And this is John Carpenter's first major film, and it brought us some jump scares as well. And most of them don't follow the rules of jump scares, which is really good, because this film breaks the rules. And then a year later, Phantasm brought into the equation the same jump scare that Repulsion did in 1965, but made it a modern version of the jump scare, which is the man in the mirror. And you all know it. We all know it. It's now one of the biggest cliches, but you gotta give them some credit because it wasn't very cliche at the time. This was the first film to do it with the modern style, with the really loud noise, and it was original at the time. It's just not anymore. And then a year later came out Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th showed a few things for the horror genre that could be done, because it did the same thing that Halloween did, showing more than one jump scare in the entire film. While jump scares used to be a one-time event, now they could show that they use it in more than once. They can use it multiple times throughout the film. They can use multiple jump scares, and also use the same technique that Halloween used with the loud noise. And also, it was made for dirt cheap like Halloween was. Except for the thing is, though, is that these films were made just to make money. That's the only thing that they were made for. While Halloween was made as a passion project, this one was made as a way to make money. So, the executives now saw, hey, we can make horror films for dirt cheap and make thousands of dollars off it.
Bye.